Hey TechKnowStuds! In this lesson, we're going to go over monitoring, what it looks like from a high level. The word monitoring just means that we're observing or checking the progress of something. We could be monitoring for mitigating risk, or we could be just collecting data so we can make production improvements. Or we could be collecting data to make business level decisions, or data for marketing. We may actually take some of our data and then use it for some of our marketing material. We also might be monitoring just to meet some sort of compliance that we have. Maybe it's a law or regulation or something that our customers are requiring us to do. The main focus that we're going to focus on is mitigating risk. And there are many different reasons why it mitigates risk. But a lot of it boils down to the CIA triad. We're monitoring for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And to reduce risk, we're either reducing the likelihood that something's happening or the impact that it'll have if it does happen. We can reduce the likelihood that something's going to happen just by identifying anomalies early and then fixing those anomalies so it doesn't become an issue. So then we're reducing the likelihood. We could also reduce the impact. And we can reduce the impact because if something were to happen, we could get notified much quicker. We could have some sort of alert that notifies us that reduces the time it takes us to respond to an incident. There's also the duration that the incident happens. We can actually shorten the incident duration because all of this data that we're collecting creates benchmarks. So now we have some comparisons and understand what's happening on our network. Not to mention, it can give us a lot of data for troubleshooting purposes. When it comes to monitoring, there's several functions that we carry out. For instance, we might need to figure out what is on our network, do a discovery to figure out what it is that we want to monitor. We might also be able to map things out and have a map of what our network looks like, what our infrastructure looks like, a map of what we're monitoring. We will, of course, do the monitoring of those devices. We also probably are going to want to do some aggregation. We probably don't want to go to 100 different systems to monitor everything. We want to aggregate them onto one system. And then there's, of course, the alerting aspect of this, that we want to get alerted when there's something wrong that's happening on our network, when there's some sort of anomalies on our network. We also will pull a lot of reports to show what's going on. And then finally, we do have to archive or destroy or get rid of a lot of these log files after we're done with them. So these are some of the functions that we carry out when it comes to monitoring. There are a lot of things that we would want to monitor. So what are some examples of this? Well, first of all, there could be infrastructure items or systems that we want to monitor. Maybe it's the endpoints on our network. Maybe it's servers that are on our network. Maybe it's networking gear. We're going to want to monitor all of that. There's also applications and services. There are a bunch of things like databases that we'll want to monitor specific aspects of those databases or our web performance, or maybe it's some sort of software or services that we're monitoring. Maybe it's some sort of cloud services that we're subscribed to and that we're going to want to monitor. There's also, we want to do a lot of monitoring from a security standpoint, making sure that things are secure, making sure that there's no vulnerabilities on our network, that we're remaining compliant, and there's going to be some surveillance things that we're going to want to do. So there's a lot of security aspects that we're going to want to monitor. There's also assets and data aspects that we're going to monitor. For instance, we have a lot of data on our network and we want to really specify what data is out there and what level we want to monitor that data at, depending on the sensitivity of it. And then there's even processes that we're going to want to monitor. Things that we are doing and carrying out to make sure that we're carrying those things out in an efficient way and a secure way. When it comes to monitoring, there's several things that we'll be looking for. We're going to be looking for the performance and the availability of whatever services that we're monitoring or the equipment that we're monitoring. We're going to want to monitor quality and what kind of quality we have. There's also, once again, the anomalies and if there's any kind of issues or events that are happening on this equipment and within our organization. We're going to look for trend lines and monitor for certain trend lines, for certain security anomalies and events that are happening. And then there's a whole host of other things like maybe a value of a product that we want to monitor. So the process for monitoring is going to be, we're going to identify what it is that we want to monitor, figure out how to monitor it and configure it. Then we'll go on with just the process of monitoring it. But there is also this adjustment that happens, both to what we're monitoring, but also to the level we're monitoring it at.